Hello, it's Monday, and it's another quick video for me related to what our text is for today, or our topic, which is bad advertising. There's so much of it. It's out there. This is often kind of a fun, if frustrating, assignment for people because there's a lot of bad advertising out there. We usually get a pretty good variety, and I appreciate what I've seen so far in the discussion thread. Hopefully, more of you will have more bad things to share in the right way. But I wanted to touch base on a few different things, and kind of thematically, they all come together. Cameron posted one that I think really speaks to a lot of the problem the advertising industry has had. It's an insensitive one. Obviously, racism, sexism, those have been things that have been part of ads for a long time, and a lot of people don't understand why. And I think it's because a lot of people who work in advertising look like me, where white males who are from a certain background and that type of thing don't understand the struggles of people who don't look like them. And so I think the one Cameron mentioned, and go look at what he was talking about, is an example of that. That this ad that is horribly phrased and framed, no one along the way thought, hey, maybe we shouldn't use that wording, maybe we shouldn't use that photo. And there's, again, the fact that there isn't necessarily diversity or inclusion involved in this. And I think that's been a problem for advertising for a long time. Not to get up on a soapbox, but when you have more people with more backgrounds involved in a project, you will have more perspective. And maybe one person will say, you know what, maybe we should look at a different way of doing this, that isn't insensitive or just dumb, you could even say. But anyway, so that's a great background on that. Remember, we work better when we're in teams of people who aren't exactly like us, because we learn and we'll have more perspectives. Peyton brings up a similar one, which is the Pepsi ad, the Jenner Pepsi ad, which basically takes all kinds of protests for valid reasons and turns them into a marketing platform for Pepsi. It's just, if it was a lot more stark at the time, I think, because we don't see the widespread protests, whether it's for Black Lives Matters or for Occupy or whatever it was. But basically, it takes all of these very valid concerns and turns it into a Pepsi ad. And oh, look how it's all upbeat and unrealistic and that type of thing. And so it was really tone deaf. And a lot of the ads that you might see that are bad ads are tone deaf. And so for the Pepsi one, I think it ran very briefly, and then because as soon as it came out, there was all social media observations talking about how tone deaf it is, and coming from a position of privilege and all the rest of this stuff. And so it wasn't around long, but it has lasted and will last until someone else does, an advertising book, or until Sullivan updates it and might want to include it. So that's another example. Alexander posted a horrible, I mean that in a good way, advertisement inviting a mall, which people like singing poorly and off key. And part of me is wondering if that's intentional. We've talked before about Sullivan and his issues with the Whipple campaign. And obviously the Whipple campaign, that was, if you were alive back then, it was kind of an average ad. It wasn't below average. It wasn't above average. It was just middling, and then it had that approach to solving a problem was to use a character and some things that are pretty much outmoded as far as how we look at it. And now it does look goofy. It looks creepy and that type of thing. It didn't back then. It wasn't any better or worse than most ads were. Whereas I think the mall ad that Alexander talks about it's bad. The singing is bad, and it's edited bad. And it almost makes you wonder if it is intentional to get attention, for people to say, oh, hey, that horrible mall ad, but you'll remember it because you remember terrible advertisements. And I'm not even going to mention Puppy Baby Monkey because I really don't want to. But the ads that really stand out as being poor are ones you remember. For a simple way, because that's not offensive. It's kind of charming in how bad it is, as opposed to the Pepsi ad or other ads that are done right, offensive and tone deaf. So that's an interesting example. And Miranda brought up my favorite, he said sarcastically, which is Old Spice, the ads that say a lot, yell at you, and ultimately mean nothing. and basically are created, and someone said, oh, those are clever, and now everybody wants, not everybody, but a lot of other companies have taken up on the, hey, let's be really loud and in your face and not say anything. And so if I were to write a book, Succeeding Sullivan, I think Old Spice would be my example as far as something that's really dragged the advertising industry down in terms of quality, in terms of storytelling, because it says, oh, we're going to do a bunch of this stuff and cut back and forth. And not that Old Spice has done some really, really interesting stuff in social media and real-time media, but their ads, generally speaking, I think make everybody think that they could just make something loud in your face and not even really talk about the product and think that's successful. And again, the metrics are not there. The metrics are not telling us that what Old Spice is doing is moving the needle. But the advertising industry is very insular. They look at what other people are doing. If they think it's funny, think it's amusing, they will do the same thing. And unfortunately, that's where we're stuck on it. And advertising industry, in large part, is a wind tunnel. They all look at what each other are doing and not necessarily outside and how the world is. And I think, generally speaking, the ads that Cameron and Peyton and Miranda all talked about kind of have that in common, in that they are existing within a reality, within an advertising industry reality that is not really our reality. So anyway, look at those. Please, if you haven't done one yet, please add one. I'd love to see the conversation continue. And that's pretty much it. And then the rest of this, below this is kind of like a bulleted list of some of the reasons that I've worked with previous students. Why is advertising bad? Why do we see so many bad ads? And these are ones that previous students have generated. And obviously anything you have to add to that is definitely worthy as well. So I look forward to more advertising that I really don't like showing up, but appreciating that you're doing it. All right, stay safe.